Hey everybody, it's Bill Slocum at NC State University. In this part of my series of an introduction to the National Park Service ArcGIS Online for Organizations series, I want to talk about customizing your map display. So a little housekeeping here. Neither the National Park Service nor NC State University endorses or recommends any commercial products, processes, or services. This material may not be used for advertising or product endorsement purposes. This material is intended for educational purposes only. Neither the U.S. government nor NC State University warrants or assumes any legal liability or responsibility for the accuracy, completeness, or usefulness of any information, apparatus, product, or process disclosed. All right. So, if you've watched some of my other videos in this series, you've seen me create a web map or create some hosted feature services by sharing a map document or uploading a shapefile. You've also seen me customize some of those informational pop-ups. Now let's talk about customizing that display. Make it look nice. Make it so that people understand what they're looking at. And you can share that, again, you've heard me talk about this, you can share that map with people within your park or your organization being the National Park Service. There are all kinds of ways to do this. I'll just go over some common workflows, such as layering your layer order. How are you going to put your layers in your table of contents? Again, if you're familiar with ArcMap, it's very similar. Also, go change those styles. You spend a lot of time making your maps look nice. That is the most important thing. If you have an ugly map, then people aren't going to want to look at it. Or if you provide your superintendent something that's really illegible, you may not get the response that you want from your superintendent or some of your other colleagues. And you can change the layer styles. How does it look? Okay? And more options. We'll talk about that. And I want you to notice these three little dots, these ellipses here. That's very important. And you can also show the attribute table. You can look at the underlying attributes, not just in the pop-up, but you can look at all the attributes of the features. So let's get started. Again, how do you get there? You go to nps.maps.arcgis.com, and you would log in with your PIV card with your National Park Service account. And I've done that here, and you can see that I'm logged in with my National Park Service account. And I have in my folder system here in my how-to videos, I've got some layers that I use for demonstration purposes, and I've also uploaded a shapefile. From these layers, I have created a map. Let's open that map in a map viewer. And you can see here are the layers associated with my map. So I'm going to open that map viewer. All right, and it's going to take a little time to load. Now, let's just start off with the table of contents. Okay? Here you see Colo KM markers. Well, let's make that a little bit easier to read. And here, and I'm glad they've done this, they used to have the rename and the remove side by side. Well, you can just imagine how frustrating that could become. So I am going to just call this kilometer markers. Whoops, if I could spell today, that'd be even better. You can see now in the table of contents that's changed. I'm going to go ahead and rename all of these. I'm just going to say signs for right now, and here we'll make this look as, I'm going to rename that, and we're just going to call this culverts. And I'm taking Colo out because, well, this map is for Colonial, and it says it up there in the title, right up here. So why keep doing all of that? And I'm just going to rename this to say Trail. See how easy this is? It just takes a little bit of time. And once you get familiar with the interface, you'll breeze right through it, kind of probably quicker than I'm doing it right now. And I'm just going to call this Park Boundary. All right, so my table of contents looks a lot better than those abbreviations or those acronyms that I had up there, Colo being an acronym because you say it, KM being kilometer marker, or letters because you say the individual letters. All right, so I've got that. Now remember what I talked about earlier. I talked about your layer order. Now I want you to see that my park boundary is underneath everything. It's a good idea to start, and I'm showing the legend here with this little options button. Here, showing the legend. Whoops, there we go. You can see that I've ordered them from top being points, moving to lines, moving to polygons. They draw on top of each other, or they draw from the bottom up. You're getting the same result no matter how you say that. So you would want to take some time, and you can grab the layer and you can move it up if that's what you would like to do. Let's kind of zoom into an area of the park that looks a little more complicated, this area here. Okay, so you can see now that the park boundary is covering up parts of culverts or trails. So I'm going to move that back down to the bottom where I would like to have it. Well, and it can be a little fidgety sometimes. So I'm just going to go into the more options here, and I'm going to move that down. That little context-sensitive menu has a lot of power. We'll talk about some of that. So I've got my order layer the way I want it. Now, I'm not too happy with these kilometer markers being what they are. So if you notice here, I can click on Change Style. And I can have a lot of different options to choose from. I can symbolize by one of my attributes if I would like to do that. But for this little demonstration, let me just go in here, and I'm going to keep just a small representation. But you click on the symbol, and you can get all of these different types of markers that you can use. So take some time to investigate that. I'm just going to use these shapes, and for a kilometer marker, maybe we'll just use this yellow one here. And you can change the style size. So I'll click OK. And you can see they've already changed. Now they're hard to see. So I'm going to, just for demonstration purposes, make those red so that you can really see them. And I'm going to crank that up just a little bit here and say OK. Now you can see that I've changed my kilometer markers. I can click OK, click Done, and now they've changed in my map. But remember, I've already set informational pop-ups, so they're still available within my map here. Okay, what else are under these more options? Let's take a peek. Well, you can hide the legend, you can remove it. There is a feature here called clustering. Take some time to look at that. That's not really customizing this application, but you can look at that and look at the clustering. Okay, that's very important. All right, you can save the layer. All of these more options are very important for you to work with. Now, I mentioned another option here of showing the table. You can click on Show Table and of my kilometer markers, and you can see here that you get the XY, but you don't get anything else. What are some options here? You have some. You can filter. You can add a field if you want to do that. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. But you have another option over here where if you don't see all of the features, you can start to turn those on if you would like to and see more information about your data. Okay. To get rid of that, simply you can move it down here, or I bet I can go up here. And is there a hide? Whoops, it's in here. If I click it again, it hides it. Notice that it's visible and I have an X. Click that and get rid of it. That's really all there is to customizing your display. You have a home button. You can hit that, and that will zoom out, usually to the extent that you want. Sometimes you have to play around with that. So now that I've got my map saved, and again, this is not very aesthetically pleasing, I'm going to save it. And again, if I wanted to go into my culverts and change that symbol, I could do that as well. Now, that's only going to change the symbology in this map display. Remember what I've said earlier. I created a lot of my features by sharing a map service, or a map in ArcMap as a service. I set a lot of symbology up in ArcMap, and most of the time that symbology will transfer over. But if you don't like the symbols you have on your map, you can change them. It's real easy. Once again, you just go to the, let's get out of that, cancel, I'm sorry. You just go to the change style, and from there you can change the way your kilometer markers or your other data looks. Let's just go back to an orange and say OK. And again, you can see that it's changed. And I saved this map, and all of these changes, when I share it with others in my organization, they'll see the same thing. So, real quick, just to recap, customizing your display is really, really easy. Okay? You have to take into account your layer order. Again, points on tops of lines, on tops of polygons is a good place to start. You can change the layer styles, the way the data is represented, the way the points show up, the way the lines show up, the way the polygons show up. You can put a fill in a polygon, or you can take the fill out of a polygon. And you can also show that attribute table within your display and click on features within that attribute table, and guess what? It'll display on screen. All right, so once again, get into that software, play around. It's really important to make your maps aesthetically pleasing, because when you share those with others, you want them to be able to understand your map and get the message that you're trying to convey. All right, thanks a lot. Y'all have a good day.